to change the youth and give them a winning mindset. So I've been teaching design for the past 5 years, and I've been teaching in the inner city and teaching different formats, teaching Adobe software to the youth. And part of the problem is this is one of my students, Germany Austin, and Germany Austin was like a fantastic student of mine. And unfortunately, we had to part ways because her mother was murdered in cold blood. And, you know, the thing that was like kind of hurtful to me is like I started kind of looking at, can I pause this?
If you want to look in the chat, we can hang out while you look at the directions. Anna McCarty, she's my another go-to. She put directions in there for you.
Goodness.
Goodness.
Can you see me? All right, so let me see. Can I just talk without showing my screen? Goodness.
Sure you can.
Okay, all right. So I'm teaching in the inner city. I'm teaching at home, actually. So I'm teaching in East Cleveland, which is pretty cool. It's a chance for me to kind of give back. And, you know, me in Germany was one of my students. I really took a key to her because she's 6 years old, 6 and 7 year old. And I'm teaching them like industry standard design. So we get into Photoshop, we get into doing the flyers and things like this. And one of the issues is like the environment. So, and it kind of really got me to looking into like, what was the cause of all of this stuff? Because I'm a designer by trade, right? So I'm kind of seeing that a lot of the students, like especially the boys, their learning is testing scores is real low. The discipline is very disproportionate. They're kicking kids out, they're suspending them. The kids that they need to pull in the most is the ones that's really hurting from everything. And I kind of thought about me because when I was in the second grade, I had flunked the second grade. And when I started out with school, everything was beautiful. Everything was nice. We had a peach tree in my backyard, you know, and me flunking the second grade was really hurtful to me because, you know, all my students knew I felt like a failure. Nobody really came in and talked to me about that, like really broke that down to me. So I had to really, you know, deal with this type of stress at an early age, I think. And the thing that kind of really got me along the way was like my creativity at the same time, because, you know, I don't know if you guys all came into my Instagram story, but I talked about like my comic books and things like that. So I was always a creative kid. I was always drawing. I was always doing those type of things. And let me see. I'm trying to go along with my slides too. I apologize for that. So, I mean, everything was kind of early. I mean, early in life was everything was kind of cool, but you know, after, you know, flunking the second grade, my teacher was really mistreating me too. So it really put a bad taste in my mouth. I had a negative attitude. I wasn't eager to go to school. You know, I had lots of enthusiasm. I wasn't engaged. All of this stuff kind of followed me along the way. And, you know, but you know, the comic books kind of really helped me along, you know. And when I think about like my favorite comic book is like Daredevil. So I kind of talk about this in my story a little bit, that Daredevil was two different guys. He was Murdoch, which he was the lawyer, and he was Daredevil. And I talk about like he didn't really have to really embrace himself being Daredevil. So, you know, Murdoch is more like a cog in the machine, you know, and it's like really, I want everybody to embrace their superpowers, like to become indispensable. And I use the term social change, design and social change a long time ago. And it's just really about being ordinary people like me and you can be highly effective. So it's like being a positive role model with strong principles can help really shape and change the youth and change anybody's mind, actually. So, you know, as mentors, they need to find mentees, and mentees need to find mentors as well. So using design for social change through mentorship, I used it to promote entrepreneurship, and I really help guide students into becoming smart creators. I'm gonna talk about that in a second. So when I was in high school, it was really, the problem with high school was it wasn't no role models, it wasn't no teachers, it wasn't no counselors, it wasn't anything like that. It was, but they really wasn't, you know, coming to me because I had already had a bad taste in my mouth. So I had really lack of exposure to college tours and things like that. But I was very determined. At the same time, I had a friend who went to college, and I kind of visited the campus, and I was able to go to college. And college was okay, but the time that I went was in the '90s, so we was just getting introduced to the internet, things like that. So I was kind of beta testing Photoshop and stuff like that. But the problem was that like it wasn't no guys like me to help me along the way. So it was a lot of things that I was going through a lot of trials and tribulations in college too. It was kind of because we didn't have anything like Google and none of that stuff. Internet was just starting out, so we had to find a job the old-fashioned way. And I was lucky. I landed a job corporate. I worked for 10 years at Price Waterhouse Coopers, and it was like difficult because I had nobody really to talk my way to help me through college because none of my parents went to school. And then even in the red tape of working in corporate, because I worked at an accounting firm and I was the only Black designer. And what was cool about what I was doing was I really wasn't fitting in, and that was a problem because the technology was moving so fast. It's like the early '90s. So I'm doing coding. I'm selling stuff on eBay. MP3s is just coming out. I'm doing stuff in Flash. So I was always like interested in this stuff more than just doing some work. And they really didn't understand me. So they was like micromanaging me. I wasn't getting promoted. I really didn't even see any other Black designers. I ain't really had no role models to help me along the way. So I worked there 10 years. I'm trying to find other work. I'm sharpening my skills. Like I'm doing all this other stuff. So I'm reading code, doing video. This is before like Macromedia merged with Adobe, but before that, Macromedia was doing Flash and Dreamweaver and Premiere and all this stuff. So I'm editing video. I'm doing all of this stuff. And the economy tanked. So this was like 2007, 2008. And it was worse. It wasn't as bad. The economy tanked. It was horrible. Like people was losing jobs, losing their houses and stuff like that. And it wasn't even as bad as it is now with COVID, which is crazy. So one thing that happened is that um, when I first started working at the accounting firm, they came up with something called brand guidelines. And brand guidelines was cookie cutter templates that you can design something. This is genius for the company, but horrible for the designers. It was like 7 of us. And as they rolled out this new branding guidelines, that kind of put us out of work. It's genius for the company because they're making design, putting it into smaller pieces, easier to do, and they was able to outsource the work. So that's kind of what's going on with Fiverr and things like that. So it's like, how do I stand out and be indispensable at this point? Like evolve from that. Like, I just had to figure that out along the way. So I lose my job, I'm out of work. And I was out of work, which was crazy, was for 5 years, which was like difficult for me to even handle. Like I got a family, I got kids, I got a house, I got cars, and I can't find work even to the capacity that I was working at. Like I kind of jumped from job to job. I'm making like $65,000 as a top designer. I'm like a senior designer at this point. And I just couldn't find work. And I was just trying to apply for jobs, and I couldn't find anything. So I volunteered at the Boys and Girls Club. And it was difficult to do that because I'm dealing with hunger, I'm dealing with gangs. I never taught before, so this is out of my comfort zone. This is like kind of crazy for me to deal with. Like the second day I was working, they stole my car. So every time I tell somebody that story, they're like, I would have quit. But you have to think about like, this is before the graphic design program. This is before everything. Like I was talking to somebody yesterday about Zev Gold's book called The Dip. And the dip is just like a dip into like your career, whatever you're doing, you got to dip before it spikes back up, before you can really shine and execute. So you got to weather that storm on that dip. So the thing was like, I just ignored the kids and just started drawing and stuff. I started like practicing. I was drawing like murals on sheets of paper, and they had some other computers, and I seen some consultants coming in doing specialized work. So I presented the idea like, let me do some specialized work. And I think maybe they felt sorry for me because my car got stolen. So they went so they went forward. So I had jumped from going to like 2 locations to like 7 locations. So I'm going to 7 locations. I got 27 IMAX. I'm teaching around like 100 kids a month. And we getting into Adobe Photoshop. We getting into, I was doing something called exposure weeks where I would go in and I would kind of just open up my computer and get a bunch of kids in the lunchroom. So I'm also recording these, I'm kind of recording this at the same time. At the same time, I looked and I was showing speed art, but it was from other artists, which was cool. But I was like, maybe it'll be more of an impact if I did my own speed art, you know? So I started like recording me doing some speed art in Photoshop. I would crunch it down to like a minute. I would put some cool music to it and really tie them in. And once I showed them the speed art, they would be like, Dad, we want to learn, you know? And I was like, well, I'm trying to learn how to teach too. So it's like, you know, classroom management, you know, all of this stuff. And I started recording my classes with a little camera. And I was like, Dad, I saw something when I was recording my classes. Like I was really sharing and showing that connection we had. One of the things that I kind of really grappled with at the time was like, I'm really not a teacher like a traditional style teacher. Like I kind of look like them, and also they're not getting graded too. So they kind of like really tied to being grades, and they don't really want to do some stuff outside of the grades. You know, like a lot of people problem is like they consumers, they want to consume, they want to play, and they don't really know the urgency on like really what's going on as far as like their livelihood. And I mean boys and girls, like they really should be establishing like some mentors and some mentees, even with like Nike and Adidas right now. I think at 9 years old, I think they should be talking to execs right now, showing them sketches and things like that. Like they kind of just playing video games and just sitting idle. Like I tell them all the time, like you setting up you could set up a PayPal account just as easy. You could do a Roblox account. So um, we started going through like entrepreneurship. So I'm doing more entrepreneurship stuff. I'm gonna go back a tiny bit and say that I, because I'm not a teacher and I was kind of teaching my class, they wouldn't always go along with what my curriculum was. And I had an issue with that, you know. And then when I looked at it, I was like, damn, I'm kind of teaching them more than just Photoshop and a pen tool. We talking about grades. We talking about social responsibility on the internet. We talking about um, being responsible at home. So it was just like way more than that. And at the same time, I was really heavy into um, my design community too. So I was like building relationships. I'm putting out a ton of content. Like I'm putting out the videos and I'm trying to improve my videos and things like that. But it was an area in East Cleveland that it was like bugging the heck out of me. And this was my first video. And it was like 4 or 5 blocks with no lights. So I'm driving past there and I'm like, what in the world is going on over here? So I got a chance to go over there in the daytime and it just blew my mind. At the same time I saw it, I recorded it. And I'm looking at the video like, this crazy. I put the video and I just kind of talked over the video. This is my first video. So I kind of scripted it out. I never talked before, never on camera. So, you know, it was like, you know, when you're doing something new that you never did before, but you're driven to do it, like it's going to be uncomfortable for the first time. And the video went viral. It landed me on the news. At the same time, I'm having a design community too. So I'm going to all the design conferences. Like part of that too was being uncomfortable. I don't know nobody. I'm standing on the wall. I'm introducing to myself to the guys I look up to, and it just all came to fruition all at the same time. At the same time, my videos is getting better. I'm getting better at like storytelling, and I'm really vlogging at this point too. And that's hard to do. Like, so I told myself like I'm gonna monetize my YouTube channel because I'm trying to get the kids to come along too. Like y'all got to create this content. Like I'm not just teaching y'all. I want y'all to come along with me on this journey and follow me the whole way. Like I want to be the example. Add me on Instagram. Add me over here. Look at my content. Look at what I'm doing. I was taking them on field trips too. So I'm taking them to the Browns stadium, dropping off posters. I took them to the Cavs. We had like a roundtable meeting at the Cavs with the marketing and the design team with the Cavaliers. And I'm taking notes during all this stuff too. Like I'm at the Cavs stadium or whatever. Like, you know, LeBron was playing for us, all this cool stuff. They ain't had no snacks for my kids. I'm like, so we just kind of winging this stuff, right? So I'm taking it to like huge, like this, like technical companies. Almost, we got a place called Highland Software, and it's like the equivalent of like a Google campus. So they got sliding boards, they got barbershops, they got like PlayStations in the corner and all of this stuff. And I got probably like 10 students up there. And, you know, they trying to make the connection of what people do like all day long. Like they're trying to make the connection of like designers and what they do all day long. So they was like, gave a presentation. It was a little kind of outside of what I'm teaching them, because we kind of talking about like getting a job at the same time, like entrepreneurship too, like doing your own thing too. So it's like the balance in between that. So I never talked about this part, but you know, we laugh. So I'm gonna talk about this part.
Hey, Jamal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. Just real quick, because I know you put a lot of work in your presentation. Do you think we can just make one more kind of Hail Mary effort to get that work in real quick?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So we posted some instructions in the chat for PowerPoint, or maybe if you can maybe make a PDF of it, would you be able to share it then?
Yeah.
I'll repost it to you, the instructions for PowerPoint, if you want.
I could have went to my website too. I got a lot of that stuff up.
Or if you want to just click through the slides like from here, because we can see it pretty big this way.
Yeah, that'll work too.
Huh? Say it again.
If you want to just click through the slides like this way, because we can see like the big image still.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
That's Germany. That's me as a kid. Like, that's kind of going back to like everything being lovely and everything, you know, before my childhood and stuff. And this is when I flunked the second grade. So I felt like I was introduced to the system, you know, and I kind of talked about Daredevil. I'm gonna go down to, this is kind of where I kind of had lost my way right there. I was unemployed for 5 years and introduced. This was, I was right here. I was practicing for Ink Wars. I don't know if people are familiar with Ink Wars, but Ink Wars is like I would say you get like maybe a 66, maybe like 15 minutes to draw something with a theme at the design conferences, like large scale. You don't know what the theme is. So I was kind of practicing for that. You can see how I'm dressed too. I wasn't dressed like staff. Like I was dressed like I was the president, you know, like it's all about image. It's all about how you look, how you act. You know, most of communication is all nonverbal anyway. So this is like me. This is kind of me sitting and talking to the kids at the table, like really, like telling them what they should be doing, how they should be thinking, how they should be moving, like what they should be focusing on, and they listen to me. This is the speed art I was doing. I was just putting out content. I was putting out, you know, all kind of content. I could kind of go to my YouTube. I'll go to my website and stuff like that too. This is just like popular culture. This is like mixtape covers, like the heroes that they know, Kanye, Pac, Drake, all of that stuff. So I had like project-based classes. I mean, like project-based because, you know, I'm more like an elective. So I'm kind of going over text. I'm kind of going over color a little bit. I'm kind of going over like, you know, the basics. And this is like turning themselves into superheroes and interacting with the text. And I had like I'm going to like different locations. So we got IMAX set up in the back of the room. and they kind of just playing around with it. And then, it really don't take long for them to just take off and just start designing and doing stuff, which is dope. So this is entrepreneurship. We talking about hustle. We talking about hard work, positive attitude, the rewards of that. Like we dropping off posters at the Brown Stadium, which is like awesome. You could see it in them. Like they really love it. They really love doing it. I kind of forgot where I left off at. This is about smart creatives. This is a cool book called How Google Works. And Eric Smits was kind of wrote the book, and he was part of the hiring. He was responsible for the hiring of Google. And you had something called back in the day called knowledge workers. Knowledge workers was kind of like skilled in one thing. That was like Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker is like dope marketing dude. Peter Drucker's like cool with I forget his name. Peter Drucker, you can look him up though. So smart creatives is 4 things. It's having deep technical knowledge. It's having having some business savvy about yourself, and having a creative flair, and then a hands-on approach to getting stuff done. So that deep technical knowledge is really understanding Photoshop, understanding analytics, understanding all of these things, and then having, I wanted to instill this in all the students, like, and having some business etiquette too, like understanding clients, understanding how to work with clients. And they had client work too. They doing posters, they not getting paid, they ready to quit. Not quit, but they like putting up resistance, like we're not doing no more work till we get paid. Like they understand really what's going on, which is cool. And just getting some stuff done, because one of the problems is like when people around me, they like, yeah, let's go. But once they graduated, I kind of get, I'm trying to get on them because I'm not seeing the energy and the work that I was seeing before when they was around me. So it's kind of tough because they like in this environment, a lot of them don't have computers at home, things like that. This is a story. It's about the acres of diamonds, right? So it was this guy in Africa, and he was in search of some diamonds. And in his pursuit to find the diamonds, he just perished. He just gave up. He couldn't find them. And somebody else bought the land that he had, which was an acre, right? And lo and behold, that land that somebody bought after him had an acre of diamonds on them. They was huge rocks. Like diamonds don't look like diamonds when you first look at them. You got to kind of, they hidden inside rocks and stuff like that. So the problem with the first guy is that he didn't really research the land to see what diamonds look like in their raw state. And, an acre of diamonds is like kind of really like everybody's like sitting on an acre of diamonds. You're sitting on computers, you're sitting on iPhones, you got relationships. So you kind of walking past that. So, this is really about you figuring out, like taking heed to your surroundings and really using them to your full extent, and don't overlook those diamonds. Also, I kind of talk about 4 stages of competence, right? So 4 stages of competence. The first stage of competence is unconscious and incompetent. So you don't know what you don't know. So it's like you being in a prison, you don't know to break out of one if you're not in one, right? And then you got conscious incompetence. So you kind of know about it. So that's me coming in and saying like look, this Photoshop right here. So conscious incompetent, you know about it now, to introduce it to you, just don't know how to do it. And then once we get going, this is with anything, then you have conscious competence. You kind of know how to do it, but you still got to look it up. You still got to, you're having some difficulty doing it. But the last level is unconscious competence or subconscious consciousness. And that's like you kind of doing it without thinking about it. And that's like putting in 10,000 hours and being a master in doing something. So you got to kind of understand like the 4 stages. So when you having something, that you're going through something, you got to kind of keep this in mind when you want to hit mastery level. I want to kind of segue back to where I was at. Maybe I was a little long-winded. I know I ain't got too long. So this is another concept that I kind of teach, and this is about the well, the spark, and the way and the wheel. So the well, you have to think of the well. It's like a well, like water, right? Your brain is like a well. So the more information you put in, the deeper your well, the more you'll have a spark. It's almost like cooking. Like if you don't have a lot of ingredients, you really can't cook nothing. So you got to read a lot, like tons, like putting so many info, because this is how you disrupt the market too. So you got to know about Airbnb. You got to know about the trends. You got to kind of look into really what's going on with COVID and virtual learning and all of this stuff and really deepen your well. So the more deeper the well, the bigger the spark, right? The spark is the idea, but the idea doesn't mean anything without the will. The will is the execution. So I highly recommend people to deepen their well as much as possible with as much information as possible. Too. I started out talking about Germany and the tragedy that she had, and I'm gonna talk about Elijah. I had a student named Elijah, and he didn't know how to spell, but he was like one of my dopest designers. Like he was like always, he would go above and beyond. He was like the underdog. Like he kind of really reminded me of me. Like I kind of looked over some stuff. Like people kind of overlook you. They overlooked me at the at the job. They overlooked me at school and stuff like that. And I just really loved to see what he was doing. Like I would give him an assignment, and a lot of the kids like would just get one assignment, and then they'd be like, "Okay, I'm done," and be gone. But like Elijah would really stay and just really just go above and beyond. And one of the things that kind of the difficulty part about like what I do is like kids move a lot, and I lose contact with them. And even though my alias is still the same, yeah, I still kind of lose them. So this is about more about like giving back, um, freeing yourself from the status quo. I really feel deeply that a designer's role is really a responsible role and the role of giving back. I mean, we can really get into like selling something. We can really get into like me, buy this from me. I'm selling these services. But I think the new role of a designer is really giving back and really like it's all about connections. And, I know the theme of this is mentorship and mentees and things like that. And I would like to say that um, I really didn't understand like um, relationships and how powerful that is. Like a lot of people looking for opportunities. The opportunities is with the relationships that you build. And I would highly strongly recommend people to really get into LinkedIn and put a lot of content in there. Like this is really how you separate yourself. One of the things that the problem that I have with school is like the portfolio. Like we stand behind a portfolio when we should stand in front of it. So we are all different. We are unique. So um, that was the thing that I did. I came in front of my um, portfolio and I packaged up my intellect, and that's harder to replace. When you package up your intellect, then you become indispensable. You can't be replaced. You can't. It's no fiber that can really replace you once you do that. Um, yeah, I guess I could leave it at that. Jayworking. Um, so you can find me at jayworking.com. I'm on YouTube. I started, doing different stuff, different testing on YouTube. So I highly recommend people just like put out content, put out videos, put out short stories. Like I kind of really worked on short stories and telling my story and really helping people really do their thing like that. So.
Oh, that's great. Awesome.